So the next topic is knowledge acquisition. In short, we will be stating them as KA. It refers to the process of producing, collecting, analyzing, modeling and validating knowledges for various knowledge engineering and knowledge management projects. So the person who is responsible for generating or storing or representing knowledge into the knowledge base will be collecting information or knowledge from the experts, and this process is called as knowledge acquisition. Not only the collection of these information, but analyzing them, modeling them, validating them, everything comes under this knowledge acquisition. There are many techniques developed to produce the knowledge acquisition from experts. They are called as knowledge eliciting. Eliciting means producing or knowledge acquisition techniques. Either we can call them as knowledge eliciting techniques or it can be called as knowledge acquisition techniques. So there are different techniques available. Some of them are, one is protocol generation. Here protocol means the events that are being considered. So the first one is protocol generation. It includes various types of interviews, can be classified as structured interviews, semi-structured interviews and unstructured interviews. So the person who is responsible for acquiring the knowledge will be interviewing the experts to gather information from them, and it can be done in three ways: structured interviews, semi-structured interviews and unstructured interviews. In structured interviews, the questions are pre-planned or it is created in advance. While in unstructured interviews, questions are not created in advance. Instead, they are asked spontaneously and the discussion continues in a free-flowing conversation. In semi-structured, the combination of these two are implemented. That is, few questions are predetermined and the rest of the questions are not planned in advance. All these three formats are required for collecting information from experts. Then we have a technique called laddering. It's an interview technique used in semi-structured interviews. It's a method that helps you to produce the higher or lower level abstractions of the concepts that people use to organize their work. So we'll be gathering information based on the answers received from them, and we will be revealing more and more information from the experts. So this is called as laddering. It's a form of semi-structured interviews because we will be having some questions prepared beforehand, and based on the answers that we are receiving, we will generate new questions spontaneously. So this method is performed by using probes. Probing means to peel back the layers. So we'll be going deep into the answers that are being provided by the expert. In such interviews, we can collect information based on the aspects that are being gathered by the experts. Then we have protocol analysis, another technique for knowledge acquisition. It is used with written forms of interview or other text-based information to identify the type of knowledge, like goals of the problem, decisions available in the or to be taken in the problem, and the relationship between the entities used. So in protocol analysis or event analysis, we'll be using written forms for the interview or other pre-prepared text-based information for identifying the type of knowledge that we have to collect. So the sequence of events are called as protocols, and they are collected by asking experts to solve the specific problem and verbalize decisions by stating directly what they think. So the experts will be provided with some problems, and they will be requested to produce their statements on the problem. The knowledge developers do not interrupt in this activity. Freedom is given to the experts to express their views on the problem. Then the gathered information is structured later. They are arranged or organized later after collecting these verbal forms from the experts, and the knowledge developer or the knowledge engineer analyze the events that have been collected. This is protocol analysis. And the third one is hierarchy generation. In this technique, taxonomies are built, or other hierarchical structures like goal trees and decision networks are prepared on the problems. Then we have matrix-based knowledge acquisition technique. It involves construction of grids. Grid means it is a form of matrix having rows and columns, and so it involves construction of grids indicating problems encountered against possible solutions. So we will be listing out the problems and the possible solutions to solve that problems. It involves the construction and filling in of a two-dimensional matrix, and this matrix is called as a grid or a table. A repertory grid technique used to produce, rate, or analyze and categorize the properties of concepts are being done in this matrix-based knowledge acquisition techniques. So it is called as a repertory grid technique, where we will be using two-dimensional grid or table, and we list the problems and its corresponding solution in the form of a matrix. Then we have a sorting technique. It is used for capturing the way people compare and order concepts, and it can lead to the revelation. Revelation means reveal or disclose a fact to others. Disclosing or disclosure of a fact to others about the knowledge about classes or properties and knowledge models. The simplest form is called as a card sorting. Here, some concepts will be entered in cards, and the experts will be asked to group these cards so that they'll be forming different groups, and cards belonging to some group will be exhibiting some form of identical characteristics. So we'll be getting different groups of cards based on the identity of the problem. And the cards in each group will be having something in common. And then we have a 3-card trick. Here, 3 cards are selected at random, and we identify 2 cards which are most similar, and we explain, or the expert explain, why they are treated as similar, and also what makes them different from the 3rd card. These explanations are being provided. So it helps to determine the characteristics of classes. Picking 3 cards forces us to identify differences between them. So if we select 3 cards, we can see there will always be 2 cards which are closer to each other and away from the 3rd one. So it differ from person to person depending on the perspectives that they are having about the environment. Then we have limited information and constrained processing. Here, when we have limited time or limited information available, then we go for this technique. When time is limited and when information is limited, we go for limited information and constrained processing technique. There we use a 20 question technique which provides an efficient way of accessing the key information in a domain in a prioritized order. So we will be preparing 20 questions which are predominantly present and having two challenges, that is to seek enough information and identify the target entity with as few questions as possible. With these 20 questions, we have to identify the target entity. That is a challenge of this. Then it also influences the remaining questioning opportunities to acquire valuable knowledge effectively, both of which count on good questioning strategies. So we will be preparing 20 questions, and these 20 questions should capture whatever we need, and they are used when we have limited time left for acquiring the knowledge and also when information available is limited. So if we plot these comparisons of the techniques in a graph where the x and y axis are marked as process knowledge, which is the knowledge of how to practice skill for goals. This is known as process knowledge. And we have concept knowledge here, which we believe to be true and justified. The concepts which are believed to be true and justified, that makes up the y-axis. I don't know whether you can make out these sentences or words because of its sizes. So this is process knowledge, which represent how to practice skills for goals, and this is concept knowledge, which is a belief that is true and justified. In the x-axis, we have explicit knowledge. We have learned that explicit knowledge is the knowledge that can be transmitted from one person to another. And here we have the tacit knowledge, which is difficult to transfer from one person to another. So these are the values along the x-axis, and we have the process knowledge and concept knowledge along the y-axis. As these two varies, we will have different activities as shown in the graph. Here we have the different interviews, and we can have laddering here and some process mapping and concept mapping. Then we have state diagram mapping here and teach back, which is the relevance of knowledge gathered, and it can be correct. Teach back means it can be corrected by the expert. And here we have the constrained tasks, that is when the time is less and information is less, we go for the 20 questions. The position of this activity is based on this tacit knowledge. See this tacit knowledge and the process knowledge and concept knowledge. This is just a representation of the event that has to happen based on the situation that is prevailing. Then we have observation. By observation also we can collect information. Then we can have commentating. Commentating means running commentary on a task, and from that commentary also we can gather information. Then we have repertory grid that we have told already, that is, the problems and solutions are represented in the form of a matrix. Then we have the 3-card trick here. Then we can also have card sorting. All these things are carried out when we are at the tacit knowledge level, that is, when it is difficult to transfer information from one person to another. At that point, we will be using these type of techniques. Then we can have different steps in knowledge acquisition. We will be conducting an initial interview with expert just to build a relation between the interviewer and the expert, and also to know the scope and purpose of the knowledge to be acquired, along with some key terminologies that will be used in that problem space. All these things has to be recorded, because while conducting the interview we will not be able to write down anything or document anything. So it is to be recorded, either voice record or video record has to be done, and afterwards, after conduct of the interview, it has to be transcribed. It has to be written, made into a written format about the initial interview activities, and analyze the results from that interview made. And then after this, after conducting initial interview and recording and structuring those activities, we should conduct a semi-structured interview based on the facts that have been collected. A semi-structured interview is then conducted. Semi-structured means we have to prepare some questions in advance, and based on the answers that is being received during the semi-structured interview, we can generate other questions spontaneously also by using some laddering techniques. Then again, that has to be recorded. The recording process is known as transcription, and we will transcribe the semi-structured interview and analyze the results for the various knowledge types. And then the knowledge elements are represented, the collected knowledge are represented using appropriate knowledge models and documenting narrations in a structured manner. We have to collect the knowledge, and also we should describe the knowledge entities in a structured manner. And we use these resulting structured model and the structured text or the narrations made, and these are being given to the expert for modification and expansion on the knowledge already captured. So whatever we have collected are being recorded, and the recording is done, or the report is done in a structured way, and this has to be given to the expert again for his observation, and he is given the liberty to make the corrections on the findings that the knowledge engineer has made, so that it is error proof, to make it error proof. Then this process is repeated, that is, the collection of information, editing by the expert, and analysis of that information by the knowledge engineer. And again, the model is being built and acquisition sessions are being conducted until the expert and the knowledge engineer agree upon the goals of the project have been realized. Until that situation, these processes, whatever things that we have done before in these steps from 3 to 6, are being repeated again and again. And finally, an agreement is being reached on the goals of the projects. And these things are validated then, and it can be presented to other experts for making modifications wherever necessary. So after keeping an agreement or making an agreement between this expert and the knowledge engineer, a final set of knowledge are prepared and it is given for validation to other experts who can make necessary modifications. So there are certain developments to improve the efficiency of the knowledge acquisition process. One is the common knowledge acquisition and documentation structuring, which is called as CADS in short. Knowledge acquisition and documentation structuring, CADS. So common CADS is one development. It is a methodology according to which knowledge engineering projects should be model driven. So by this methodology, by common CADS, it states that every project needs to be modeled for gathering information. It advises the use of 6 high-level models. They are organizational model, task model, agent model, expertise model, communications model, and design model. So these 6 different models are to be used for collecting knowledge from the expert. That is one development. Other one is ontology. It is a formalized representation of knowledge. The nature of being is the meaning that we have seen for ontology. The existence is termed as ontology. So it's a formalized representation of knowledge in a domain taken from a particular perspective or concept of the expert. The main use of ontology is to share and communicate knowledge between people and computer systems. Ontology is used for sharing and communicating knowledge between people and computer systems. It also provides guidance to knowledge engineer as to how to reach to a knowledge or what all knowledge has to be gathered. Such guidance are being given by ontology. Then we have software tools also. Many different packages are available for the assistance of knowledge acquisition, and one among them is the PCPack, which contains a number of tools to help the knowledge engineer for analyzing the structure and store the knowledge required. Use of the software can also facilitate reuse and transfer of knowledge from one project to another project. We can share the knowledge collected between projects. The knowledge collected with respect to a project can be shifted or transferred or copied to another project source if it is required by a different project.